So nice to see you all, and I'm really excited for today's webinar, which is 1 year on how Civica Councils are succeeding with Payble. So just to introduce ourselves, so Payble is Australia and New Zealand's first and only payment experience platform for local government. What we do is quite interesting, and you'll see this, I will show you how the product works, but I like to look at it from a strategic perspective first. A lot of people, when they see Payble, they think, hey, this would be really good for people that are in arrears. You know, we can get them into arrangements, we can help them catch up. That's true. We've got really good functionality for that. It's a great tool for your teams to use to speed up payments and help people catch up. But actually where our purpose is sort of, it's this top part of the pyramid. We're actually trying to help people before they end up in collections, because it's my firm belief that your arrears ratio or your people in collections is actually a lagging indicator of potentially an ineffective or just a process that didn't work before that stage. So getting people into flexibility before they're in arrears, getting people who don't even have any problems paying, getting them into an automatic direct debit, say on their cards, they can just set and forget. Those are potentially ratepayers that have money but might forget to pay or might be frustrated. So the platform is really designed about preventing people moving down that pyramid. We're going to hear a little bit about the integration.
So I think it's really important to understand that authority is the single source of truth in this situation as well. So fundamentally, we've built this custom integration between the two solutions to make sure that we have that really deep connection between the data that's flowing between authority and Payble. So it's really what it means is when a customer is making a direct debit or a payment arrangement in Payble, that information seamlessly flowing through to authority and the other way around. And really importantly, there's no manual work involved for councils to integrate these two solutions together. Obviously, we've got your existing council systems, so Civica's authority, be that version 7.1 or Altitude, and you've got your payment gateway where the payment is actually being processed. So sitting on top of that, it comes along Payble. So the integration you'll see by the arrows is telling us that the information is being drawn out of authority, sent to Payble, the customer's account information, balance, ownership, etc. The customer is entering in their validating information and their payment data. And that payment is then tokenized and processed through your existing payment gateway. So Payble's not a payment gateway, they're tokenizing the payment, forwarding that through to your existing payment gateway. And on top of that, your integration between your payment and with your reconciliation and your receipting remains as per normal, so that there's no changes to that fundamental process. So Payble sits nicely on top of your existing solutions, but it's taking that information using those custom APIs that we've built together and making that a seamless integration experience for council and Payble and Civica.
The common challenges with rates payments for councils, or why councils have started working with us, is many council portals look a bit like this. They have a bit of a tedious user experience, but also they're missing core functionality. Like it can be hard for ratepayers to enroll an arrangement. They can't change their direct debit dates. They can't sometimes even see their live balance. And in particular, for card portals, they're not able to do card direct debit. They just are all once-off payments, which isn't good for council because then people can't set and forget. Similarly, for direct debit, it's often either a paper form, which is frustrating because your teams then have to spend a lot of time processing forms, or even if it isn't a paper form, it's a digital form. Those in the rates teams will know this is effectively the same. It's then just queuing a request, be it a CRM or a records request, or even just an email. Then the team still has to do the same thing, which is type it in, calculate. So automating these processes is much better for council, but it's also much better for the ratepayer because they can actually have a bit more control. So often people identify the first order problems, which is like, of course, things have to be processed. And those are really true because those effects are immediate on the rates team. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to process these things. But then the second order effects is it makes it really hard. You get increased missed payments. It makes it hard to manage arrears. There's often this strong perception that council is a bit behind the times. And then you have stressed customers who are often disengaged or frustrated, technically compliant, it should not be the case because it just creates so much risk.
Yeah, so maybe the theme we can introduce from the webinar is the difference between best practice and compliance, because they're two different things.
So let's now move into some of our Civica first movers. So there was 4 desires that most councils had when they started engaging with Payble, and we're going to focus on one of them for each council just to bring some of the stories up. But the first area was around introducing automation of all direct debits and arrangements. That was, of course, to save the revenue team time, but it was also to make them more effective. The second one was councils wanted to introduce more self-service options and spend a lot less time on dishonours. The third one was about a lot of councils wanted to implement more flexibility to ratepayers, or you can think about that as bill smoothing. The last one was about just improving customer experience generally.
Yeah, all 4 of them are incredibly important in all conversations that we have. The one that comes up though is around it's the automation, but I think it's going beyond automation of setting up direct debits and arrangements. It's around automating the entire process. So things that aren't considered originally as, what if we're managing expired cards or, those follow-up activities that people are seeing. So automating the processes to, allow council to, focus more on the customer experience and to engage more with citizens. That's a really big thing. And that's probably the big one that we see when we're talking with our executives and with our end users.
We're going to introduce now our 4. So for each of these councils, we've picked one of the themes that was most important, and now we're going to present some of their outcomes together. So the first one we're going to look at is Victoria Park over in WA, and their main theme was they really wanted to introduce card direct debit payments, as well as they wanted to reduce costs generally. They wanted to improve that team efficiency and that automation, and they also wanted to improve customer experience. Before we started working with Victoria Park, we did some work with them to map some of these journeys, and they'd actually already done a lot of work, but there was about 300 hours being spent on the payment arrangement process. And there was also around additional 300 hours on direct debits. And then there was a lot more hours spent on manual inquiries. Now we're able to do things where if missed payments before your payment plan can start, you need to clear your outstanding balance of 7180. Because of our integration, we're able to see when people are in arrears or they're overdue. And if you at council set rules like, this person can't pay, let's say it's quarterly installments, this person's not allowed to enroll in installments because they've already missed some installments, but we're happy for them to enroll if they catch up themselves now, then they can come into installments. Payble's an intelligent system. So based off that, it will actually present that, and it might pop something like this about missed payments. So some of the key outcomes achieved for Victoria Park. The first one is they've got a really, really high ratepayer satisfaction rate. So it's 4.7 out of 5. The second thing is one of the things they really want to do is introduce card direct debit, and Vic Park does actually charge a surcharge for cards. So this doesn't cost Vic Park anything. But now they've got 50% of their community now able to use their card for set and forget, which is great. And the final bit, of course, is we looked at some of the sums around how many direct debits we'd created, how many arrangements on behalf of council. And so far, it seems like it's about 500 hours we're saving each year in just those 2 categories. Now I'm going to show you Wellington Shire. And Wellington wanted to introduce self-serve options, and in particular wanted to reduce the time spent on dishonours. So that was their top focus. Some of the other things were they felt like they had limited or a little bit inflexible payment options before they worked with us. It's that wanting to offer, if you can offer flexibility to your community, it's good to do that. You get a great outcome. They also wanted to add the ability for people to skip payments and save a lot of time on the manual work. So before working with us, we measured there was about 3,000 hours spent on manual tasks. And as well as that, there was significant paperwork sort of burdening the rates team. So more than 1,000 paper forms. That's not high value work for anyone. So you want to automate that so there's more time for people to spend on other activities. As well as that, obviously, there was no card direct debit. And in fact, I haven't met any other councils that have card direct debit other than using a service like our own. And as well, they had an experience, they were a bit worried about perhaps households might struggle to pay their rates, which is another reason for flexibility. And since we've started working with them, we've had other really good results. So we've been able to reduce the manual work on these tasks really, really significantly. The one that stands out to me is actually this. So we spent some time, and in fact, Matthew Dice there, who sort of really led the Payble implementation work and now the constant work together. He was able to see that, and Wellington's not an incredibly large council, it's on the smaller size, but they were actually able to measure, even with all the bill smoothing and all the flexibility, it actually did definitely increase the early payments collected. So in point in time analysis between 12 months and 12 months, they were actually much further ahead by introducing flexibility. The other thing that Wellington did is they pioneered our new feature, which is called plan requests. So this is, you probably saw something like this when we looked at Victoria Park, but see this is that selector where customers can enroll in which payment, which frequency they would like. Notice just down the bottom here, I'm just going to zoom in. See, it says if you aren't able to make these payments, council may allow you to request a payment plan. What we're able to do is actually present a way for customers to request, but still it gives the opportunity for council to review and approve. The other initiative that's coming up with Wellington is they're going to be one of our first customers in using our digital notices product, which is quite new. And in fact,
one thing that's come up a lot is that it's one thing to enable people to pay, but it's also another thing to produce that legal document that you may need for verification purposes. You may also want to view it and then pay. The final thing is that the fee level for this is totally egregious, in my opinion, and I think there's a moral or emotional imperative, at least on my end, to make it more equitable for all of us to do this service in a way that doesn't break our back pockets, because at the end of the day, it's ratepayer funds that we're using. So what we've decided to do is to democratize this and to give Civica and Payble customers the ability to showcase these digital notices with the goal of moving towards that 40 to 50% mark.
Moving on to Cessnock. So Cessnock's goal with Payble was actually more about improving customer experience generally. So of course they wanted the direct debit automation. They wanted all those things too, but something they identified was they were not getting amazing feedback from their ratepayers. And his was just some feedback that they had about their current payment process that we collected with them. And so what we wanted to do was implement Payble and drive satisfaction up. And here's just two very, very quick comments that their ratepayers made to Cessnock after using Payble. They've got a 4.74 out of 5 satisfaction, which is just fantastic. And then the other thing they're doing is they've started to be more proactive about how they communicate to ratepayers with things like custom notifications. I do want to rue quite quickly because they're coming onto the platform, but we've got some cool data to share. Wanneroo, a very large council in Perth Metro, they really wanted to, well, they were having some challenges. The first one was they had really high transaction costs. They wanted to get those down. So it was a real good cost proposition for Wanneroo and getting more people on direct debit. BPay often costs council 50, 60, 70 cents per transaction. BPay is actually quite expensive, although many people forget about that cost at council. They don't add it up. Direct debit is often free or 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 cents. It's in that category. So by shifting people from bank account BPay to bank account direct debit, council saves 10, 20, 30, hundreds of thousands of dollars at scale. So it's a really good cost proposition. The second one was about the rise that council was having in arrears and all the manual work in terms of getting people into arrangements. I just want to share some of the what's coming next. So of course, we've got a lot of councils that have started to use Payble for their infringements payments as well. That's something that more and more councils want to optimize because of the high costs of be it Spur or be it fines Vic if they have to refer an infringement on. So they're doing their infringements with Payble. And in fact, there's animal registration, sundry debtors, that whole category. Second one, we showcase some of the digital notices. And then the final bit is we've got a lot of more councils wanting to do bulk SMS. So not just the automatic reminders, but also some of those more like one-off campaigns, those early arrears recovery. I just wanted to give a really, really big thank you. Firstly, to the customers that have adopted Payble. We only featured 4 today, but there's dozens and dozens of them, and we've got more to share really, really soon. The second one is, of course, to our lovely friends at Civica, Catherine and Justin. Thank you both so much for both supporting us and sort of pioneering this partnership, but also for sharing your insights with everyone on the webinar today.